Welcome to the Amanda Hall Psychic Workshop Series here on Facebook Live every Wednesday morning from the Gold Coast here in Australia. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day or night wherever you are in this amazing globe of ours. It's wonderful to have you join us again. For those of you that are new to the show, welcome. We've been doing this now for 53 weeks, so we're sort of, powering on in our workshop series. It's a show that I have here on Facebook Live directly after my show out of the US of A on A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV. So if you want to catch up with that, you'll find a little blurb there in my little blurb on the Facebook Live feed here that tells you where you can go back and binge watch my previous workshops or catch up with my previous shows on A1R Psychic Radio. This week's shows will be uploaded there within the next 48 hours, so I'd love you to be able to go back and check it out at your convenience. It's a really, really interesting week here in Australia. We've had some major weather events here on the Gold Coast. It was a time when they sort of told us in the last 7 days, batten down the hatches of the cyclone coming towards you. Well, it was a big blow, a lot of wind, a lot of gale force winds, and the beaches got eroded, and I think we were lucky to get 10 mils of rain out of it. So, we all got excited about the potential of some rain, and the gardens were desperate for a drink, but all that we got was a lot of wind and a lot of dust instead. But hey, look, we're not complaining. We love to work with weather events wherever we are in the world, and I'm sure that you have your own stories as well. So it's a really, really interesting week here. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me here on a Wednesday morning live. Let's get some T's and C's out of the road. First and foremost, this is a teaching workshop. This is not a workshop where I give away complimentary or free readings. If you want the opportunity for a free reading, can I suggest next Wednesday morning you join my show out of South Carolina on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV, where part of that show I do give away a couple of complimentary readings. So you'd need to go to the A1R Psychic Radio Facebook page, and you'll see all the details there of how to register for the opportunity to maybe get a reading with me or one of the other fantastic psychic mediums that they have on their shows over 3 nights out of the US. So that's the first thing. The second thing I will say to you is it's always lovely for you to leave a little comment as you're joining us in the comments box. I'm not going to give shout outs because that takes away from my concentration on the subject that I want to share with you today. But I certainly would love to hear from you. Sort of leave me your name, where you're from, maybe if you have a question that relates to the topic. And that's the only answers I will give is questions that relate to the topic of the workshop that we're talking about today. I will not answer anything else. And it's not that I'm being rude. I'm not giving away free readings or free information, but I'm happy to clarify anything that we've talked about during the workshop that you may not understand. So, as I said, each week we have one of these psychic subjects that I like to work with. This week we're going to be working with the energy of the sun in Aquarius. Now, a lot of you would say to me, Amanda, but the Aquarian time of the year is over. Why would you be doing a workshop now of the sun in Aquarius? Well, very simply, February was such a very busy month. And because I didn't have a workshop over Christmas, it sort of threw the schedule back into, there were so many things that we had to talk about, and including Valentine's Day and things like that. There wasn't enough Wednesdays in the month of February for me to actually slot in the sun in Aquarius with the new moon and the full moon and Valentine's Day. So we're doing it today so that the Aquarian people in our audience don't have to wait 12 months to learn a little bit more about their own star sign. So I do apologize for it to being a little bit out of kilter, but that's the reasons why. So when we sort of come to the sun in Aquarius, people sort of have so many different ideas about that. The most common question I get asked in astrology is, Amanda, I'm on the cusp. Well, let me sort of waylay that myth here and now. There is no such thing as being on the cusp. If you can imagine in your mind's eye, if I give you a pie and I ask you to cut it into 12 pieces, now when you've put the knife through the pie and you've made that cut in the pie, that is a cut of the piece of the pie. So you take out a piece of pie and it has 2 cuts, one either side of the piece of pie. Well, if you imagine that's what we call a cusp line in astrology, where we've cut the astrology wheel into 12 pieces and we've drawn a line, or we've made a cut in the wheel, that is a cusp line. So if you said that you're sitting on the cusp, well, you can't be. Your energy is either in one side of the pie, in number 1 side of the pie, or number 2 piece of the pie. So there's no such thing as that. The cusp is the division of the houses. Now, the houses can change in division depending on the timing of the year. The general rule of thumb is the sun goes into a sign as early as the 16th of the month and as late as the 26th. Now, this changes each year with the wobble of the earth. That's the only reason why the cusp lines change. The average sort of time is usually around the 22nd or the 23rd of each month. But as I said, it can sometimes be as early as the 16th and sometimes as late as the 26th. And this is where people get confused and they think, oh, well, I must be on the cusp. No, an astrologer, or being able to look up this day and age, probably with Dr. Google, you type in your birth date and it should be able to tell you what your sun sign is, what your star sign is. You'll either be one or the other. Just because you're very close to the cusp line, and say you may be a Capricorn, and you're on the Capricorn side of the cusp line, doesn't mean that you're going to have a lot of Aquarian traits because you're very close to Aquarius. You are, believe me, a Capricorn through and through. The only reason you would have Aquarian traits in your chart is if you have other planets that sit in the sign of Aquarius. So I just want to be very clear on that before we start talking about the Aquarian energy. Now, the Aquarian energy, or the Aquarian sign, is the 11th sign of the zodiac. It's sometimes very misunderstood because a lot of times people think that Aquarian people have little or no emotion. They seem to be emotionally detached. They seem to be unfocused on your interest and primarily only on their own. They seem to be as if they're not listening to you, and that's not always the case. The Aquarian energy, yes, is an air sign. It is a fixed sign, so it means that they have very definite opinions of what they like and what they don't like. Yes, they can seem to be emotionally detached, but they're actually not. Usually what they are is very deep in thought. And sometimes when they're very deep in thought, they can be a little bit distant, or what seems to be a little bit absent-minded, or not paying attention. It's not that at all. They're just so intense in their concentration and processing things at a fast rate of knots in their mind, like a computer, that's why they get that aloofness about them. Aquarians are usually very highly educated people. They usually have a lot of ability to absorb knowledge very, very quickly. So I want to sort of say to you, next time that you're with an Aquarian and you think they're being a little bit aloof or a little bit rude, cut them a little bit of slack, because what they're actually doing is actually probably processing something very, very quickly in their mind. You know, they've got something that they need to sort of work out. So the Aquarian energy quite often has a very unusual sense of humor. You know, like Aquarians dare to be different. They like to do things to shock people sometimes. That's where they get their kicks. They find that hilariously funny to sort of walk in and say something or do something or dress a certain way that everybody is shock horror, you know, like I wouldn't do that. And sort of that, in a sense, in a way, I suppose they're dramatically gaining attention. And their opposite sign is Leo, which we know that our darling little Leos do love to perform and do love to get attention. So maybe, just maybe, they're drawing a little bit on that opposite polarity of that Leo energy there, where they're doing it to shock you and surprise you, to gain the attention or bring the attention back to them. But quite often it's usually more importantly to make a statement, to sort of to grab your attention, yes, but to get you to focus on what the message is at hand. I've had many Aquarian girlfriends over the years, and it was always interesting when you went to go out for a girls' night out or something, particularly when I was much younger, and you know, I had younger children, and we quite often had a ladies' night out occasionally for mother's sanity. And you know, some of my Aquarian girlfriends would have the most way out and wacky outfits on. You know, they'd have a big orange dress with, you know, green big flowers on, a pink handbag and a purple pair of shoes, and you know, and a hat with fruit on it. And you'd think, wow, you know, like they certainly wanted to come out and be unnoticed, didn't they? You know, and everybody else was dressed more sedately. But to them, they couldn't make up their mind. They were all their favourites, so they wore them all. You know, and they didn't see anything wrong with that. It didn't have to be colour coordinated or matched. It was, you know, a collection of their favourite bits and pieces, and they wanted to take them all out on a special night out. So that's sometimes the way Aquarians are. Aquarians also sometimes can be a little bit pushy or a little bit bossy, particularly when they believe that they're right. So again, that comes from that very fixed energy that sort of says, I'm going to get my point across and you will listen to me because I am an authority on this. And I affectionately say, you know, if you want to ask an Aquarian a question, they'll always tell you that they're right. Just ask them and they'll tell you, because, you know, they know everything. And I say that affectionately because they do like to sort of, excuse me, share with everyone their knowledge and their wisdom, and it sort of makes them feel important. You notice their chest come out and they stand taller, and as they're sort of pushing their point across, that they are an authority figure in things. So how do we work with the Aquarian energy if we're not an Aquarian? Well, for the rest of us mere mortals, we can work with the Aquarian energy at the time of the year when the Aquarian energy happens. It's a time when I think that we really need to sort of be looking at our thoughts and our thought processes. And is it a time where we're looking to shake things up a little bit more in our lives? Are we starting to look at, my heavens, you know, the year's starting to move fast. We're into the second month. We need to sort of get some new inspirational ideas happening. I want to achieve so much this year. So we need to sort of collectively gather all those thoughts up and put them into a concentrated point. Whether that's, you know, putting them on a notepad and a paper and sort of putting them in order of preference of the things that we might want to achieve. Are we looking for some more innovative answers and ideas to projects that we might like to get off the ground? Are we having lots of thoughts running in and out of our head? All of the above are possible. And it's a time when sometimes people say to me in February, I'm really struggling with sleeping, Amanda. Is it because I've just gone back to work after being on holidays and having some time off over Christmas with the family? Am I struggling to get back into my routine? The first week or two back at work, I was fine. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'm incredibly restless. Well, that's usually when you find the sun's gone into Aquarius. All of a sudden, it starts to give us this very restless feeling. And it's making us question whether or not our life is heading in the direction that we want it to. Most of us have gone back to work after the holiday season in the time of the Capricorn time of the year, where we're very focused, we're very grounded, we're very earthed. We might want to go back to work because we're having such a good time, but we know we've got to, and it's, you know, back to the grindstone, back to the new year and all this sort of stuff. And we go back and we sort of settle into a routine. And then a couple of weeks later, that all sort of goes out the window and I become very restless, and I really don't understand what to do with myself. And this is why, and it's the Aquarian energy. It's asking us to shake things up a little bit. It's asking us to look at anything in our lives. You know, are we ready to start some new ventures? Are we looking to start a new business? Are we happy with the job that we've got? Do we need to look at study? Do we need to look at doing something different or innovative this year? And it's questioning. It's a lot of question marks. And this is why for a lot of people, they can't literally turn their head off. For other people, it's a time when they start going and looking at new technical devices, new computers, laptops, tablets, those sort of things, because they feel that they've got to keep up with technology. Things have moved so much in the last 6 months, and it's like, well, I've got Christmas out of the road. Now I can focus on, you know, what I need to function for my job and my career for the next 12 months. And it's those sort of things. Other people sort of find that they just don't want to be around people, and that they're very comfortable in being by themselves and allowing these light bulb moments to go off in their head and enjoy what's actually sort of happening around them. That, you know, sort of sitting back, being emotionally detached, not allowing their emotions to take control of themselves, just being in their head instead of being in their emotional state, and sort of saying, wow, this is great, and observing things and looking at things and being sometimes a tad secretive too about the plans or their ambitions for the 12 months. It's like, I just want to keep them to myself for the time being and formulate them and explore them. And then just maybe I might talk to someone else about them. But for the moment, they're very selfishly mine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a very important thing that we need to work with in that way. We need to be able to say that to ourselves, that this is my time, it's my thinking time. I can have the luxury of being able to do so. And it's not excluding other people well, it is excluding other people on purpose, but it's not in a destructive way. It's, I'm starting to sort of look at, well, hang on a minute, if I can get my own affairs in order, if I can get my own thinking straight, then just maybe I can give somebody else a hand because I've got my own affairs in order first. And I think that's an important thing. We sometimes forget that we need to get our own affairs in order or our own thinking straight before we can help someone else. How can we focus on someone else's issues or projects if we can't get our own straightened out first of all? So if we were going to be working with the Aquarian energy, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in the Aquarian month of the year, it can be at any time. Say for argument's sake that you're looking to get some fresh, new, innovative ideas around your business. Your business is struggling, you feel it's a bit stale, you feel that you want to make some changes, you don't know what it is that you want to change, but you know that you need some light bulb moments, you need some inspiration. So you would start to put that down on the piece of paper. For other people, it might be, I'm struggling with communication with a work colleague. No matter what I do, they don't seem to be listening. I'm looking for an innovative, different way to sort of strike up a better rapport with them. For other people, it may be other forms of communication. Whatever it is write it down on your piece of paper. I know I normally teach you a minimum of 3 things to write down and that we're letting go of, and then 3 things we're going to attract. This one's the exception to the rule, because this can be 1 thing or it can be 10 things. It can be whatever you want it to be. We're not necessarily releasing anything. What we're asking the universe to do is to help us formulate our thinking. Give us the light bulb moments, give us some inspiration, give us some new ideas that we can sort of start a whole process that, you know, like one light bulb moment coming in can open everything up to a much wider, bigger story that we can start to explore. So it's, you know, I want to get inspiration. I want things to come into my mind. I want to be able to be sort of challenged, I suppose, intellectually. You know, it's no point in retracing the same steps, putting your same feet in the same holes and coming up with the same answers. That's not progress. All that's doing is wasting time. We're going round and round in circles. We want to be able to step out of our comfort zone and look for new and innovative ways of dealing with our lives or dealing with situations or bringing something new towards us that we didn't have before. Now, this is really important because I feel that we need to be looking at what it is that we're hoping to change in this next 12 months. But particularly now, let's sort of collectively start to look at, you know, the year's sort of starting to hurtle along. What are the things that we need some answers or some inspiration or some direction on? Is there something there that we might like to change or work towards? I know I'm an ideas person. I'm always looking for that sort of next idea, that next thing that I can throw my teeth into. I can remember somebody telling me many years ago when I was having a reading when I was much younger that I'd never be satisfied. And I looked at them and I thought, oh, what a strange comment to make, you know, like, you know, and they said, no matter what you achieve in your life, Amanda, you'll say, yes, that's great, but you'll be looking for the next Mount Everest to climb. And I thought, God, I'll never be finished. That's what I thought to myself. And I was really disturbed and distressed by that for a very long time. And then one day I had one of those light bulb moments that I knew exactly what they were talking about. That I'm a person that I love the thrill of creating something new or working on a new project, and I'll work diligently and sort of, you know, barely come up for air while I'm working on it. And then when I've achieved it or completed it, I think, oh yeah, well, that was okay. And then I'm looking for the next adventure. And that's what they were meaning, that I didn't take the time, that once I'd achieved what I'd been working on so long, where other people would take their time to sit there and bask in the glory of it. And, you know, sometimes sort of that's where they'd hang their shingle up and say, well, I'm done now. For me, that's sort of like, well, I've done that. What's next? You know, like, come on, I've got to keep going. And it dawned on me then that my life had always been that way. I always need a goal or something that I'm trying to achieve. That's what keeps me positive. That's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me getting out of bed of a morning. And it was interesting in that way that once I realized that great epiphany moment, that it answered many questions in my life where, when I was much younger, that I couldn't settle into a job, that, you know, I could start the world's greatest job and with 6 months or 12 months I'd be bored and I'd be looking for some new adventure because I'd mastered it, I'd conquered it. I needed something more. And it wasn't until I went into the psychic industry, and with it being so varied and different, and each day being different and a different set of challenges, that I really came into my own, where I really realized that this was, I suppose, in a sense, chosen for me, even though I struggled with it very much in the early days, thinking this couldn't be, I didn't want the responsibility that went with it. But over the years, it became more and more important to me. And I now realize that that was part of my role, that I needed to remain versatile and be able to be flexible and change with a split second, because my work would require that. And it was never about ever feeling something was finished or completed or that was it, because the day I do that, that's the day I'll retire, and I can't see that ever happening. So, you know, it's important to understand yourself. And this is where I think the Aquarian energy can come in. Some people are like me. They need to have this constant searching or striving to achieve, to do something, and their job is never complete in their eyes. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's other people that achieve that, you know, 1 or 2 major milestones in their life, and they're happy. They're satisfied, and that's also wonderful too. So it's a very, very personal thing. So if we're going to work with the Aquarian energy, we write our little list or what we want to hope to bring into our lives as we've been discussing. Then we would read it out aloud as we go to light our candle. We'd read it out aloud, pop it underneath the candle, popping the candle on a coaster, never directly on the furniture because the glass container does get hot and we don't want to scorch the furniture. The soy wax itself in the candle doesn't get hot, but it's the glass container itself that gets hot. So with our extra large candles, there's a dual wick system in there. I like one side one day and one side the next day. Just gives you a longer burn time. So I like to burn a candle from about 15 minutes to 2 hours per day. And I know that sounds like a long time, but if you're going to sit with your candle and you can only spare 15 minutes, 15 minutes is ample. If you're sitting there with it, you're doing work, and you can go up to 2 hours, that's wonderful. For most of us, 15 minutes is a long enough struggle. It's sort of like asking us to cut our arms off, but you need to be able to focus on the candle for that length of time. Looking into the flame, reinforcing what you've read out aloud to the universe, you know, really focusing on this is what I need answers to, or what I need a hand with, or what I want to, you know, help formulate more in my lives. For those of you that don't want to work with a flame, you can pick up a melt warmer at your local supermarket or department store. Here in Australia, retail for around about $15. I take 2 teaspoons of my soy wax out of my candle, pop it in the top of the little bowl, and turn the melt warmer on. Again, reading out my list, popping it under the melt warmer on a coaster, on the furniture, never directly on the furniture. You can leave this going all day. Now, the interesting thing with these is that you don't need to babysit them. You can leave it going all day, and every time you walk past it, just give thought to what was on your piece of paper. Now, this is something that, you know, I add a half a teaspoon of extra wax each day to just keep reinforcing that sort of energy, and you'll find that that also works equally as well. For those of you that want a smaller combination, you can pick up our gift box set, 28 in the range. You don't have to have all air sign ones. You can pick any 3 that you want, and they'll be sent out to you. So before we move on to the end of the workshop, I'd just like to take this opportunity to announce that I've actually been awarded again for the 6th year in a row, and I'm getting a little bit embarrassed about this now, Australian Psychic of the Year, which was voted by the public. So I'm saying I'm a little bit embarrassed because there's so many other wonderful psychics here in Australia that I think equally deserve this award. And I'm not saying I'm not grateful and I'm not thankful to each and every one of you that voted for me. I'm really humble and I'm really thankful, and it's really an amazing honour. And I feel very privileged and very honoured to receive this yet again. But I also sort of feel that there's so many other people out there doing such amazing work too that deserve to be recognised for their dedication as well. So as a little way of saying thank you to each and every one of you that voted for me, I know there's many people out there that have sort of said to me, Amanda, you know, I'd really like to purchase a Simply Tarot set. They're a little bit out of my price range. So for a very, very short time, I've reduced them drastically. The 2 original Simply Tarot sets, and I'm going to show them to you now. This was the Simply Tarot set with just the book and the cards. And the Simply Tarot set, our original baby that's in its 14th year now, with the book, the DVD and the cards. Now, these 2 sets are no longer in print. They are a rare collector's item now. So if you want to make a purchase of them, you go to the Simply Tarot website, which is www.amandahallpsychic.com.au, and go to the buy a tarot set. You'll see a little picture and a button on the main page. That will take you through to the tarot sets. You'll see that they've been heavily reduced for a short time, and that will make it easier for you to purchase them. Plus, also, as another thank you, I'm offering a little discount for everybody that whether they're buying a candle, booking a reading, purchasing anything from the Amanda Hall Psychic website, if you type the word award in capital letters in the coupon box at the checkout, you will find you'll get a little discount there. Is my way of saying thank you to everybody that voted for me. So our other exciting news is people here in Australia, we have free postage, which we've had for a very long time now. But for our overseas family, we've been able to do a deal with one of our postal service providers here in Australia, and we've got a reduced rate. So we've now been able to cut about 40% off the flat fee of posting product anywhere in the world now. So that's a huge reduction, and we're really excited about it. So it's a flat fee for no matter how much product or how many tarot sets you buy or whatever your order might be, and that's going to be, well, as long as they keep the deal going with us, we'll be able to pass those savings on to you. So until next week, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic week. Next week we're going to be working with the new moon in Pisces, so that'll be a great fantastic workshop for anybody that wants to work with the new moon. I hope you have an absolutely awesome week, and again, from the bottom of my heart, to each and every one of you that voted for me, and those of you that didn't even know anything about it, I just want to take the time to thank you for your continued support and love, and you really do mean the world to me. So until next week, bye for now.